The haunted house of Peppa Pig. It was a silent night in the countryside. The small English village lay hidden beneath a heavy mist that spread across the village like a ghostly shadow. Behind the fog, there stood this one particular house. From the outside, the house looked like a simple, humble home, just like a normal house you'd find in Peppa Pig's cartoon world. But this was not an ordinary house. This house held Peppa Pig's secrets. Secrets that will be explored in this scary video. Prepare for a Peppa Pig horror that will terrify even the bravest of souls. The house was the inspiration for Peppa Pig's home. It's believed the creators of the show based the Peppa Pig cartoon around this house. But the story behind the house was far darker than anything a children's show could ever reveal. This story will expose the horrifying truth behind the Peppa Pig house. The house was originally built in the early 1800s. Its first owner, a man named Gregory Hargrove, was a well-known introvert. No one knew much about Gregory except that he kept to himself. The villagers had all spoken about how strange things always seemed to happen whenever he was around. Neighbors often gossiped in hushed whispers about the lights in Gregory's house. From outside his house, the lights could be seen turning off and on in a pattern, almost like he was using Morse code as a way of communicating. There were also strange noises coming from his house that could be heard all through the peaceful village. It was said that Gregory had an obsession with voodoo rituals. Some believed he was trying to summon evil spirits from another realm. Villagers would often label him a wizard, and they were certain Gregory was possessed by demons. But no one dared to get too close to him or to his haunted house. Villagers would often cross the road just to avoid any contact with him. They all avoided him until one day, when Gregory mysteriously disappeared in the early 1900s. He simply vanished without a trace, leaving only his house behind. And ever since then, the house had been troubled by odd events. There were whispers coming from inside the walls, shadows that moved on their own, and a chilling presence that could never quite be explained. Even the electricity in the house would often stop working, leaving the house in total darkness. As time went on, the house changed owners several times. Each new family that moved in experienced the same disturbing events. One family even reported hearing the unmistakable sound of children's laughter in the house. They looked everywhere in the house, but they never found anyone. Every room in the house was empty. The villagers continued to avoid the house. They called it the haunted house. They tried to warn anyone who would listen about the dark forces that they believed to be possessing the building. Peppa Pig's house, though seemingly innocent, was built upon this cursed foundation, a legacy that could never be erased. The true horror lay in the house itself and the unspoken connection it had with the dark events of the past. The horror started one rainy evening when Peppa Pig and her family decided to visit the haunted house. Peppa had no idea of the sinister history the house held. As Peppa Pig entered the house, everywhere was silent. The rooms were dark, and Peppa struggled to see anything. There was a strange sound coming from the house as they approached the front door. "Are we sure this is a good idea?" George Pig asked as he clutched his stuffed dinosaur tightly. "It's just an old house, George," Peppa Pig replied. She was smiling, all while trying to mask her fear. The Peppa Pig family slowly walked into the building. There was a strong smell of something damp in the air. Peppa and her family walked through the main hallway, their footsteps tapping against the wooden floors as they explored the haunted house. Peppa's bedroom, which had been recreated in the cartoon, was just as it appeared on TV. But there was something different about the house. The colors in the house were more muted, and the walls were darker than they should have been. Then they discovered the secret room. Hidden behind a bookshelf, a door opened to reveal a small, dark space. It wasn't in any of the house's blueprints. This was a room that had been sealed for decades, a room that shouldn't have existed. Inside the room, there were strange markings and symbols all over the walls. Words written in a language that Peppa Pig couldn't understand were across the floor. The only sound was the beating of the hearts of the Peppa Pig family. Suddenly, the temperature in the room dropped. Peppa Pig's father, Daddy Pig, reached out to touch one of the markings. As soon as his hand touched the marking, the ground shook. The bookshelf that hid the door slammed shut with a loud bang. The Peppa Pig family was now trapped inside. The strange whispers started again. The whispers were getting louder. In the center of the room there was a mirror. Peppa's curiosity got the best of her, and she stepped forward. But as she looked into the mirror, something horrifying happened. Her reflection didn't match her actions. She saw herself smiling, but it wasn't her face. Her reflection grinned back with dark black eyes. The room seemed to get even darker. The Peppa Pig family screamed in terror. The door leading to the room flung open, and Peppa's family escaped into the hallway. But Peppa stood motionless, staring at the mirror. Then, without warning, the mirror shattered, sending shards of glass flying across the room. A dark shadow shot out from the broken reflection. Peppa Pig screamed, but no sound came out. The world around her went black. When Peppa woke up, she was no longer in the haunted house. She was outside. Her family gathered around her, their faces full of fear. The rain had stopped, but the sky was a demonic shade of red. "What happened?" Peppa asked. She needed answers. Daddy Pig looked at her with wide eyes. "We don't know, Peppa. We were trapped in there, but you were different. Your eyes, they weren't the same. It was like you were someone else." Something had changed. Peppa had felt it deep inside. She was no longer the same cheerful, preppy Peppa Pig. She was now a cursed Peppa Pig. She was marked by the dark voodoo that had been unleashed in that haunted room. As they walked away from the house, Peppa Pig turned to look back. The haunted house stood silent, its windows dark. But the reflection she saw in one of the windows wasn't hers. The reflection of Peppa Pig was the same twisted version she had seen in the mirror. She tried to ignore it, but the feeling of being watched stayed with her. And that night, she had a dream about the Peppa Pig haunted house. The mirror, the sound of the children laughing, the scary sounds of evil, and the terrifying shadow that still followed her. Months had passed since that fateful night, and Peppa's life seemed to return to normal. But deep down, she knew someone was watching her. Every night, she would have lucid dreams of the creepy house. The whispers never stopped. It was as if the house wanted something from her, something that she couldn't understand. One evening, Peppa Pig felt brave and wanted to put an end to her horror. She gathered her family together and decided they would return to the house. She wanted to face whatever darkness was still in the house. Peppa Pig was desperate to escape the nightmares she had every night at bedtime. As they approached, the house seemed to lure them inside. Its windows glowed with a dim light. "This isn't a good idea, Peppa," Daddy Pig warned, but Peppa was determined. She felt she had no choice. The terror Peppa Pig faced every night was enough motivation. The Peppa Pig family stepped into the house once more. The moment they entered, the house felt alive. The whispers returned, louder than ever. Peppa led the way, moving towards the room with the mirror. The same room in the Peppa Pig house where the horror began. But this time, the room was different. The symbols on the wall were gone. The mirror was no longer there. Instead, a single chair sat in the center of the room. And in the chair sat Gregory Hargrove. He was the long-lost owner of the house. The same Gregory that the villagers believed to be cursed by demons. He was the one that had performed the voodoo rituals in the haunted house. But it wasn't really him. It was his spirit. He was trapped in the haunted house, bound by the curse that he had created through his evil incarnations. His eyes were demonic and his skin was pale. As he spoke, his voice matched perfectly with the whispers of the house. "You shouldn't have come back," Gregory said. "Now you've awakened what was never meant to be awakened." Peppa's heart raced as the room began to spin. The evil spirits in the house were powerful, and they wanted vengeance. The walls closed in on them, and the floorboards broke open. Underneath the floorboards was a dark abyss. The house had been built on something horrifying. Gregory had done many evil incantations in the house. The demons were rooted deep in the foundation of the Peppa Pig house. And just as Peppa thought they would be lost forever, the house collapsed, completely destroyed to dust. But not before Gregory's laughter echoed in the air. As the dust settled, Peppa looked around. The house was gone, vanished. But the darkness remained. She knew, deep in her heart, that it was only a matter of time before the curse of Peppa Pig would come back. The house may have disappeared, but Peppa Pig's horror journey was far from over. The curse had followed her, and the shadow would always be with her. The once innocent world of Peppa Pig had become a twisted nightmare, a haunted legacy that would never be forgotten. Subscribe to the channel for more scary Peppa Pig stories. Click the playlist to see more Peppa Pig Horror.